Alright guys, this can be an intimidating boss, but don't throw a gorilla-sized tantrum. We've got this. Hey everyone, this is the first of a new video series where we do a deep dive into the design of boss battles throughout various video games, and to show you how excited I am to get started, we're kicking things off by going ape. Monkey imagery is almost as prevalent in aesthetic in Sekiro as wolf imagery was in Bloodborne. The sculptor, who acts as your mentor much like Gehrman in Bloodborne, is nicknamed Orangutan, and you'll find yourself fighting monkey enemies as you progress through the game. At the end of the Sunken Valley passage, where Bodhisattva Valley is adorned by ancient statues of the Buddha, the wolf finds himself at a watering hole with some serious monkey business to attend to. As with most Sekiro battles, your success or failure in this fight will hinge on how well you've adapted to Sekiro's truly unique combat calculus. People will say that you need to completely unlearn the Soulsborne way of thinking, and for the most part that's true, but you still need to focus on watching and internalizing your enemy's tells. And in just a minute, we'll look at just how different this psychotic simian's two phases are to each other, tells included, and how the dynamic between these phases really ends up defining this fight. The ape's animations are gorgeous in their way, just like everything else in this game. There's a great contrast between the two phases when animal gives way to monster. In its first phase, the guardian ape by and large behaves, well, like an ape, with an emphasis on using his oversized arms to both move around and attack. He'll attack you with wide swings and slams, attacks based less in finesse and more about throwing his enormous weight around. Now, when you dig into the lore, you understand that this ape is not just some feral brute, but the way he fights is definitely animalistic. His perilous attacks in this phase both result in you getting grabbed for a brutal slam. And oh my days, this slam. It's nowhere near as bad as a certain lunge grab from a certain early game chained ogre, but it can be disorienting as hell when he tosses you at the wrong spot. What the hell is going on in this shot? But those are still very animalistic attacks. Just grab the shinobi and smash the shinobi. Speaking of animalistic, let's not forget the one where Sloptimus Primal here just lets one go, then Supermans it into the air, pulls his own shit out of his ass in real time and whips it at you. And those are the same hands he grabs you with. But in fairness, this attack provides you with a huge window to strike back. You just might feel like washing off your sword after. And the animalistic intensity of this first phase does make it an intimidating fight. Personally, I had to remind myself that even those massive swings and slams can be perfect blocked, just as long as it doesn't have the red kanji above your head. But you keep with what you've learned and you will triumph, and that head will come off. But then... compare this to his second phase, when the infested side takes the wheel and things take a turn in a hurry. There is very little that feels animalistic or indeed even natural about the infested phase animations. It walks in this uncanny skitter, defying its own center of gravity. Its body movements constantly seem not quite right, almost like it's being puppeteered. It holds its own severed head in one hand, and it uses a gigantic sword in the other, but it doesn't really fight like a swordsman. It wields the sword with these strange sideways swipes and backwards slams. I think this is all deliberately meant to invoke the uncanny valley and be creepy as shit. If you're playing the game fresh and haven't been spoiled by watching videos like this one, then this whole second phase is going to catch you off guard. And it throws all these unnatural movements at you while you're scrambling to get your bearings after thinking you've beaten the boss, and it works so well. One of its perilous attacks sees it placing its severed head back on its neck, then shrieking an unholy shriek through its dead mouth, which inflicts an area of effective terror buildup at a horrifying rate. Situationally, there are a couple ways to deal with this, like upgrading your prosthetic umbrella to the Phoenix Lilac state, which shields you from terror buildup against supernatural enemies as long as it's active. But that's only available for this fight in New Game Plus, because in a terrific Catch-22, to upgrade it that far, you need one of the upgrades that you get from winning this fight. So for the most part, you'll just be running away from this attack. I'm not sure how I feel about this from a design and flow perspective. You'll constantly be on notice to run far away on a dime, though in doing so, you'll often end up baiting out his other perilous attack, where he lunges at you and slashes. So one perilous attack gives you no window at all, and in fact forces you into a zero opportunity retreat, but it can be used to bait out the perilous attack that does give you a ton of strike back opportunity. Because you might find yourself chugging down pacifying agents to increase your terror resistance, the second phase might make you juggle more resource management. Personally, I prefer to just keep healing items on the quick bar and use the pause menu situationally, because holy shit, I'm still over the moon at the fact that you can pause a Soul Zero FromSoft game, but you gotta do you. As for which phase is easier, it basically comes down to how your muscle memory reacts to the different movesets. I started out feeling brickwalled by the first phase, because for whatever reason my muscle memory decides to wig out when it comes to enemies in these games whose movements are more feral. Just ask the werewolves in Bloodborne. Whereas with the infested phase, it only took me 2 tries, and those are the tries you see on screen now. Both phases have weaknesses. Equip the firecracker prosthetic for the first phase and throw down some divine confetti for the second phase. Maybe that's another reason I found the second phase easier, because the firecrackers merely open up a window for attack, whereas the divine confetti is a respectable buff in and of itself. That, and I find Sekiro easiest when it plays to its element, which is sending sparks flying with sword against sword. That's when the true genius of Sekiro's combat really comes into focus. And you don't see it here, but you can also use the loaded spear to yank the infesting centipede right out of its house during the second phase, which causes massive posture damage if you do it right. Now that we're really feeling comfortable with the structure and mechanics of the fight, to really contextualize the ape's positioning in the game, we should take a step back and look at the interesting structure of Sekiro's first 2 acts. The first part of Sekiro is rather linear, taking you on a pretty straightforward path from battle to battle, some mandatory, some optional. You can and should do the Hirata Estates during this time, but that can be done at any point in the story. The Hirata Estates, which I'm showing as the background here, is actually most structurally similar to the DLCs that FromSoft has done in the past. It's a separate physical area from the rest of the game map, accessed through a portal or talisman collected in-game, much like Ula Seal or the Hunter's Nightmare. But that linearity on the main game path completely evaporates after the Blazing Bull. Ostensibly, you're supposed to Spider-Man across the rooftops of Ashina Castle and go confront Genichiro Ashina, after which your boy Kuro will charge you with finding a gaggle of mystical MacGuffins far and wide across FromSoft's mystical corrupted take on feudal Japan. At least that's the quote-unquote intended way. Truth is, after beating the Blazing Bull, a good chunk of the game opens up. You can go up to Genichiro, or you can go down to the dungeons or the reservoir, or you can explore the castle grounds. The dungeon eventually drops you out at Senpou Temple, and you can do this entire area except for the boss, right after beating the Blazing Bull if you so choose. It's a great place to stock up on sugars at any rate. The reservoir, meanwhile, takes you past the well you started the game in, and leads you to the Ashina Depths, where you'll explore the Hidden Forest and Mibu Village. You can actually go all the way to the end of Mibu Village, beat the corrupted monk, and obtain the Shelter Stone before even knowing that you'll need it. But that's the only one of the 3 paths that you can actually complete if you really do decide to put off Genichiro that long. It is good that they gave players the option of getting more gameplay experience before forcing them to take on Genichiro, because he really is a skill gate boss where you'll either demonstrate that you'll have internalized Sekiro's unique combat calculus, or you'll suffer. FromSoft is good like that. Even a seemingly left-field mini-boss like the Armored Warrior, you know, the guy who looks and acts like he just walked off the pages of Berserk and who fell right into meme land when you beat him, even he acts as a teachable moment for players. Because if you've somehow gotten midway through Senpou Temple without realizing posture is more important than vitality, this is a mandatory encounter that forces you to completely focus on posture damage rather than whittling down health. But until you beat Genichiro, you cannot challenge the Folding Screen Monkeys, the boss of Senpou Temple, and you cannot progress in the Sunken Valley beyond the Gun Fort. As the Guardian Ape's watering hole is the farthest point in the depths past the Gun Fort, it's clear that From intend for you to have your Shinobi game unlocked by the time you fight the ape. And at this point in the game, they are done with teachable moments. You either apply what you've learned or you get burned. The Guardian Ape demands versatility and stamina because both phases play very differently, and either one could have been a standalone boss battle. Your victory against the Guardian Ape will be well fought and hard won, and with it you take your prize. A simple flower, but what it unlocks is coveted by more than just the divine heir. And that about wraps it up. To be honest, I didn't originally intend for the Guardian Ape to be the first boss I looked at in this miniseries, but funny story, I actually had this script open when I rolled onto YouTube one day and saw that the YouTuber The Democracy had actually just begun a boss analysis series of his own. And that's fine, his videos are awesome, but I wanted to get this out just on the off chance he was planning on covering it later. I didn't want the first video of this series to be a boss that a popular Souls content creator had just done, you know? Now, did you like the Guardian Ape fight? Was it on the easy side for you, or did you just barely scrape by, or did it all just flow like water? Would you be interested in seeing me tie in lore more heavily on future videos where it's appropriate? Are you, in fact, an undying ancient ape who is overjoyed that your kind are finally getting the representation that you have long been denied? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you want more, check out my website for plenty of text articles on games, film, and more, link in the description below. And if you want something a bit more fictional, it also has links to my novels in physical and digital formats. I'll see you next time.